Blood is one of the most evil games I've ever played. When I played the first episode of the game, it was really challenging. However, I feel that it doesn't even compare to the game's second episode, Even Death May Die. But for those of you who haven't heard of Blood, or have and don't know much about it, here's a basic rundown of the game quickly. Blood was released in 1997 by the company Monolith Productions. It consists of 4 episodes. If you didn't catch what I said a minute ago, it is one of the hardest games I've ever played. So yeah, I'm not going to waste your time anymore, let's dynamite our way right into this. The first episode of Blood, The Way of All Flesh, saw us going through some pretty interesting places, such as a cemetery, a train station, an actual train, and lots more. But episode 2 of Blood shows us something a little bit different. This time around things are much colder, fittingly, as we get into the winter. But yeah, like I said, this episode's a lot colder and it has us going through a lot of snowy environments this time around. Level 1 has us listening to Caleb stealing lines from popular movies such as,
"You're going to need a bigger boat."
and blasting his way through a boat full of cultists, with us also meeting some new enemies along the way, which I'm going to get to in a bit. Along with that, we also find some new weapons, which again I will get to soon. Second level enters us into this place, which I am immediately greeted by a wall of hit scanners as soon as I turn the first corner, and despite how evil this game has been to me in the past, it did take me a bit off guard. And again, this level also introduces some new stuff to us, which I'm going to talk about in a bit. Our third level here is based upon the maze from the movie The Shining. And in fact, Caleb says the line that pretty much everybody knows from that movie, which is,
"Here's Johnny."
oh, and also this is one of the best levels in the game. The next few levels follow the same kind of theme, and it's not really worth talking about them, I don't think. So once we get past those, we enter the least snowy place in this entire level. In fact, there's no snow, I don't think. It's all like an underground cave system with like old minecarts and stuff like that, and I thought this level was really cool. However, it was really long. And also, I forgot to mention, due to some of the levels looking a bit similar, when I was organising my files for this video, I put some of the levels in the same folder, because I thought they were just clips from the same level. Oh, and also, that wasn't the last level, that was the second last level. The last level, I'm going to give its own segment, and you're going to see why later, because... But yeah, let's move on. I'm not doing the clap thing again for this video, we're going to continue with the way I did it in the last Blood video. So, this episode was actually full of new enemies for us to talk about, which is great, because it gives me more stuff to say in this video. So let's get started. First of all, we have these few aquatic losers, and we're gonna go through them real quick. First of all, we have a literal fish called the bone eel. He is very easy to kill, like, he's like one hit to kill, basically. And there's also the gill beast. Like they said in that one Star Wars film, there's always a bigger fish. And this time the bigger fish has legs. Despite that though, I rarely saw him ever actually use them. He's not that hard to take down unless he's in a large group. Then it gets kind of annoying because they all swarm you and they're very fast. Moving on to enemies that do walk on land and don't just swim around everywhere, we have your mum, also known as the bloated butcher. Okay, that was sad. I apologise for that. Aside from your mum, there's also 2 different types of spiders, and oh, we'll talk about him in a minute. So, let me explain each of them. The bloated butcher fires what I assume is projectile vomit at you, and he also chucks butcher's knives at you. These attacks do a lot of damage, so it's best to stay out of the way of them. He's got a decent amount of health, but yeah, dynamite sticks are very good to put him down. Moving on to the 2 types of spider, the normal spider I think can only damage a normal health, but I'm not completely sure on that. And I believe that the bigger spider, called the mother spider, when it bites you a few times, makes you nauseous, unless that's just both spiders, but I think it's just the mother spider. But yeah, they aren't that hard to kill. The mother spider takes a few shots from the flare gun, and the normal spiders are like one pitchfork. Anyway, let's move on to him. The Phantasm. I don't like this enemy at all. Not because he's necessarily hard to fight, just because he's the most irritating thing on the planet. Because he doesn't shut up. Flies around screaming, and this sound is constant. There's no breaks, it's constant. When he's flying around, he's completely invincible. When he stops to try and attack you, he then comes out of that invincible state and you can damage him, which is a really cool gameplay mechanic. But hold on, how are we going to get this guy to shut up? Well, perhaps there's some new weapons that we can use on him. Now, we've got a few things to go over here, providing that I'm not being a moron while I was writing the script. First of all, we get introduced to the Voodoo Doll, which is actually one of the coolest and most creative weapons I've ever seen in an FPS game. And it's exactly what the name implies, a Voodoo Doll. Except the only catch is, if you miss the enemy you're trying to attack with it, then you'll deal damage to yourself, which I think is a really cool gameplay mechanic. And it stops you from just spamming the Voodoo Doll over and over and over again. Next up, we have two different types of dynamite. But yeah, the first type of dynamite is a remote detonate dynamite, which is exactly what it says. You chuck the dynamite down, and you remote detonate it. It's really useful for certain situations, and I actually really like this addition. The second one, however, feels kind of useless, and I didn't really like using it. It's basically a mine. It's dynamite that when you walk near it, it explodes. Know how I said when you walk near it, keyword being you. It doesn't just activate with enemies, it also activates when you go near it, which makes it a complete pain to try and set stuff up for enemies, because you can't lead them through it, because if you try and do that, you'll just kill yourself. We also have another pretty fun weapon, and something I need to explain quickly, right? A lot of my viewership is American, so I don't actually know if you guys got this type of stuff at school, but basically here in the UK at least, or at least where I'm from in the UK, we have a lot of stuff about like fire safety and that from fire departments coming to our schools and doing like school assemblies. But yeah, a large part of those was to not use deodorant cans as like flamethrowers and stuff. Well, Caleb either never got one of those talks or he completely missed the point, because when you find an aerosol can, he decides to use it as a flamethrower, using a seemingly infinite amount of lighter fluid. Oh, but yeah, remember when I mentioned that final level? Well, I think we should talk about that now.
Hey, she-bitch, let's go.
See, this level was so bad that I decided to turn the light off to record this final segment. It's because I couldn't find a different colour to work on the light. And this level is my only complaint about this episode. See, it's a boss fight, but I didn't know that until I googled it. I also had nearly no ammo for majority of the fight, and there's literally nothing sprinkled around the arena. There's 2 boxes of flares, a super shotgun, and 2 boxes of ammo for that shotgun, which is not enough to kill both spiders, which are the boss fight. The amount of times where I tried to complete the level and I ran out of ammo completely is ridiculous, and it got to the point where it felt near impossible to beat it, as I'd have to pitchfork it to death. And considering how long the dynamite was taking to kill it, to the point where I chucked 40 pieces of dynamite at it and I still didn't kill it, I was not going to pitchfork it to death. So I instead decided to use a cheat code and give myself a bunch of ammo so that I could actually beat the level and make this video. But don't worry, the game did make sure to remind me that I cheated when I got to the level end screen. So thank you, Blood, for that. I never would have realised that I cheated on the level if you didn't tell me. But if Blood seems interesting to you and you haven't already, then I recommend watching my video appearing right here on the first episode of Blood if you haven't seen it already.